Good morning, all. My name's Lester. I'm your host, and in studio and in MTN's Tiger Valley store this morning, we have Morgan van Graan from Exclusive Books upstairs. And today he's going to be unpacking and reviewing the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. So it's one of those books that has sold over 25 million copies over the past few years. It is a book that has affected many business owners and employees to help them with their productivity by implementing small changes that results in massive, massive change. So Morgan, welcome to the show. Before we actually get into the book, can you tell us a bit about Morgan van Graan, and for the very few that might not know, a little bit about Exclusive Books as well?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here today, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk about this honestly amazing book. So I'm Morgan, obviously from Exclusive Books, as you mentioned, and I have a degree in English, philosophy, and also French. So I like reading a lot and I really love writing, and I've been working at Exclusive Books for about a year and a half now. Exclusive Books I've grown up with Exclusive Books, and it has really fostered my love for books and for knowledge and for reading. And Exclusive Books has been around for 75 years. Can you believe it? Around 75 years. And it has catered to all manners of individuals, writing kind of books for everyone. You can always find a book that you'll like at Exclusive Books. And from all of the stores that I visited, I describe Exclusive Books as kind of a cozy place with enough comfort seating where you can kind of get lost in like your dreams in books.
Phenomenal, Morgan. Thank you so much. I think from now on, we're going to switch the podcast to French for Jean.
Oh,
A little joke there for you. So this particular book sold more than 25 million copies. Could you tell us, what do you feel was the contributing factor to that level of success?
So I think there's two major contributing factors to Atomic Habits being so successful. One is the author, James Clear. It wasn't an overnight success, He's put in the effort. He's put in like the advertisement. He's got a lot of website, It doesn't just happen to make an amazing book like this. And it's kind of a testament to the book. It's really well written. It speaks plainly and directly about what its goals and intentions are, which is obviously giving you knowledge about habits and how to use them in your favor. And then another reason why I think that the book does sell very well is because it gives you these tangible examples that you can apply to your life, or that you can kind of just think about in the back of your head. It's not too metaphorical. It gives you like things you can properly analyze, things you can see analytics. Yes, you can see analytics for them. And it also identifies habits that we have in our daily life, or habits that we would like to have, which means it's relatable and kind of easily digestible.
Well, I just want to share this quote with you quickly. Atomic habits are small habits you create to massively improve your life and get better results. Can you share how this book has personally helped you and other people you may know?
Yes. So for myself, I want to be a writer one day, or I am a writer, but I would like to have multiple books published one day. And obviously writing you have to have a lot of discipline for writing. And unfortunately for myself, I rely a lot on motivation to kind of get that writing process started. The book does help with kind of letting you figure out when is the best time to actually start these habits, For me, it helped me identify the moments that I am best suited to write. And it has helped me fall into like a consistent productivity with my writing. For instance, I recognize that at nighttime, there's a lot of distractions. I have a lot of social life at nighttime. Therefore, probably setting my goal or my habit of writing like a little bit at night is not the best idea. So now I write in the morning, and the book just kind of has you focus in on this awareness and kind of the environment around you. There was also a customer that came into the store talking about this book, and he said to me that the message of the book is really simple, actually, in the grand scheme of things. It's about, as long as you improve 1% every day in anything, those improvements compound into like these massive changes in your life, It's not just about immediate success. And he said, because of the simple nature of the book, it was really easy to kind of just look at something in your life. You want to improve on that. And then you kind of just you find the little habits to improve maybe communication, which is what this customer did. And he said that it's kind of improved communication habits with his family and also specifically his son, but also some of his employees, Also just makes clear communication as well.
Phenomenal. Focus more on your habits and systems instead of focusing on your goals. Aren't goals the ultimate destination for us as entrepreneurs and as an employee?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I do feel like the goals are very important. And the book does not discredit anyone's goals at all. It acknowledges that goals are important in aligning yourself. You want to know where you kind of want to go, but it also acknowledges that for lasting and meaningful changes or improvements, goals aren't what's going to set those things in place. Instead, it's going to be the systems you set in place or habits you set in place to achieve those goals. Those are the ones that give lasting and meaningful change. For instance, two businesses might have the same goal, and I believe actually multiple businesses has like the same like profit goal, but one business will reach that goal sooner than another, not because of the goal itself, but because they have better systems in place to achieve those meaningful goals, So yeah, another thing that habits and systems allow for is kind of you can have daily victories or small victories that as long as you participate in these habits or you act into these good habits or good systems, then you are achieving like a small victory daily instead of one big victory at the end of the line. Yeah.
So chunking them basically, instead of being overwhelmed by this massive goal that you set for yourself at the end of the year. And I think the book said it quite nicely. Both poor and rich people have goals. And the people that ultimately achieve their goals are the ones that have those systems in place that has broken it down in small bite-sized portions and ultimately gets them to get to that place eventually. Now, chapter 2 talks a bit about habits and how do you change your habits? And one of the things the book mentions is you change your habits by an identity change. This is one of the changes. So we need an identity change to progress. Do you agree with that statement? And why would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. One of the examples that the book gives is if you offer like a cigarette to two ex-smokers, one smoker will say that, no, I'm trying to quit smoking. So in the back of his mind, he still has the identity that he is a smoker, and that's kind of the identity he's going to fall back towards when his rehabilitation fails and he continues smoking again. Whereas the other ex-smoker, he says, no, I'm not a smoker, So he's already kind of internally digested that I don't do smoking anymore because I'm not a smoker. So you don't do something in order to become something else. You do something because you are that something else. For instance, you write because you're a writer. You play music because you're a musician. And so it's easier to form these habits and have these habits for writing or playing music or exercising if you believe yourself to already be part of this ecosystem, because eventually like stress will happen and you will fall back onto something, and you always fall back onto your identity, because that's just your natural state of being.
I was telling Chris this morning as we got here at the MTN store, that the Founders Hub has generously graced us with some muffins and some cookies and some coffee and all of these other beautiful things. And it's no secret that I need to lose about 45 kgs, get my pre-wedding body back. And my identity was, okay, I cannot eat these things, but that still goes back to the identity of I'm a sugar lover, so I think I need to change that and use some of these methodologies to implement that and drive that home. Okay, cool. So this is the Business Fundamentals Show on Corp Radio in partnership with MTN and the Founders Hub. And today, again, we are speaking to Morgan van Graan from Exclusive Books, and we are unpacking this phenomenal book that has sold over 25 million copies, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Another quote that has come up is messing up once is an accident, right? Messing up twice is the beginning or the formation of a habit. Do you agree with that statement?
That statement is honestly very harsh. I think a lot of people kind of messes up twice or even thrice, and that's not necessarily a habit, but it might be part of an habit that has already manifested, and you kind of, to get out of this like loop, you have to have an awareness, and the book advocates for having an awareness of these things, Because how are you supposed to get out of the cycle if you don't even know that you are in a cycle? You know?
I just want to cut in there, Morgan, sorry to break over, because one of the other things the book also says is our actions are so automatic. We don't realize that we are in this habit loop, in the cycle loop.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned. So to get out of this loop and to not mess up like twice or thrice afterwards, you have to have an awareness. And the book basically says, as you go about your daily life, take particular care to notice kind of what you do and what are the triggers causing you to do these things, you know, and then maybe write it down somewhere, maybe in a journal, on like a card or anything. And then at the end of the day, you'll see kind of what habits you did and what were the triggers and so forth. And you can maybe say, oh, this is a positive habit, this is a good habit, this is a neutral habit, and what I can change. So for instance, if maybe you're working the day and so forth, and you get slightly hungry, but not hungry enough to warrant a full meal, that's kind of the cue, your hunger. And for instance, myself, I work in Tiger Valley. There's stores all around me. It's so easy for me to be like, okay, I'm slightly hungry. Let me go to Pick and Pay. Let me have a Snickers. And then at the end of the day, I'm having 7 Snickers a week, you know. We don't want that necessarily because it does cut into the budget, you know.
Absolutely. I remember I had an employee that worked for me many years ago, and the first time he came late, we thought, okay, there are certain circumstances that may have contributed to the fact that you're late. The second time, you start asking, you know, are you the type of person that generally comes late? And, you know, you're not sure if you need to bring the hammer down at that point, or if this is a symptom of a bigger problem. If you are an optimist like me and you overestimate your ability to get to a certain place within a certain time frame, are you that way inclined? So that is also where habits come in. And it's not necessarily the formation of a habit, but it could be the symptom of a bigger problem. And if you identify it early enough, there's a saying that goes, kill the devil while he's young.
Yes.
So maybe that could be applicable in certain circumstances. Okay, so we're going to open up to some of the people that are here shortly. I just want to wrap up with 2 more questions or 2 more points, and then we're going to open it up to 1 or 2 people in the audience that might want to share a review and how the book has helped them and some of the practical skills that they have now implemented since reading that book. Motivation is overrated. Your environment often plays a bigger role. Mike, what would you say is the best example that comes to mind of this, if you agree with that statement?
Okay, so yeah, the motivation is slightly overrated, and the book kind of says you can cue yourself into having these specific motivations. Motivation doesn't have to be a fleeting thing that just dawns upon you like, you know, like it's a blessed day. And it turns out a lot of our habits that we have daily are context dependent. And one of the biggest contexts that we often forget about is your environment, you know. And when things are obvious and we have constant stimuli pointing towards those things, we are bound to interact with the obvious, you know. And one of the best examples in the book is when the US military, you know, during the Vietnam War, they have a bunch of service members in this very stressful environment, you know, and the service members are in a foreign land. They're dealing with the stress of war, you know, it's constant life or death. And then they also have a bunch of these friends that are using easy access drugs like heroin, you know. And so they did some research and they discovered that 20% of the service members that they have in Vietnam during the war are heroin addicts, you know. And we have this conception that this is a very difficult habit to break. 90% of individuals that leave rehabilitation for heroin, they go back to the addiction once they re-enter their environments that they originally got addicted in. But when you look at these military service members, when they left Vietnam and went back home, 9 out of 10 of them left the addiction almost overnight, you know? So I feel like sometimes it's not the habit that's really difficult to break, but it's the environment that you've set yourself up in, you know? If you're in a place that keeps giving you cues to follow the specific pattern of behavior, you're bound to follow that pattern of behavior, you know? So it's kind of about setting up your environment for success.
I think we as business owners, a lot of us have now adopted the habit of working from home, you know, taking the commute out of the equation. But when you are in such a familiar environment where the TV's there and your favorite Netflix series is one button away, or the comfortable couch is there, or in some cases the kids are at home and they are your comfortable place. They are your safety zone, and it does affect our productivity. So you're saying we should all go back to the office?
So the book actually does talk about that. The book does say, hey, it's important to have different locations for different things. Or if you're a writer, maybe have one laptop for writing and then have another computer for entertainment. Or so you got to segment your life kind of properly. If going to the office is necessary to be productive, then I guess you have to go to the office, you know.
I did not say that. I'm a procrastinator and I need help. Let's conclude before, opening it up to the audience by just taking 2 minutes of telling us about how can we implement systems that can help us. I know the book talks a bit about the Goldilocks principle. How do we get into that state? And how can that help us as business owners and as employees?
Yes. So I'm also, believe it or not, quite a big procrastinator. I was preparing for this interview like 2 a.m. in the morning,
Okay.
Quite a big procrastinator. And I think it comes from being like having a goal-oriented mindset, because you're like, okay, I'm going to be fine as long as I finish my goal, and that ends up making you kind of push until like the last bit, because you're like, I'm very optimistic about my abilities.
Yeah.
I can push this on until like the last bit and finish it, but that's obviously not effective. And so the book talks about kind of two things: how you can, one, create new habits to kind of stop this behavior, and how to maintain these habits. And one is the 2-minute rule, and the other one is the Goldilocks zone, as you mentioned. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, or you want to start a new habit, start small, start with something that you can do within 2 minutes. Or, for instance, if you want to become a writer like myself, start by just writing for 2 minutes. It's a very short time, but eventually you build up that habit because it's easy to get in and out of. You won't get burned out by just saying, I want to read more. Let me read 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes is a lot. And sometimes you feel like you don't have time, and instead make those 30 minutes 1 page a day. Then it's easy to get into. It's easy to stay consistent with like these smaller things, and eventually you'll be like, I'm here, I might as well stay a little bit longer. And so you build up that habit, And then the Goldilocks zone, once your habit is like swinging and you're getting the hang of it, it's important to not get bored of this routine that you've set for yourself, And the Goldilocks zone in the book is basically just, you want to find that the right level of difficulty to stimulate your brain, to make it exciting, to learn new things. But you also want to find kind of an easy way to get into these things. And once you've done that, once you get the cereal that's not too hot, not too cold, you've entered the Goldilocks zone, and you'll probably stick with that habit for quite a while,
Until Papa Bear comes home. Okay, so we're going to open it up to the audience now. And I know Kemi and Graan want to share some of their experiences and takeaways from this book. And we'll also open it up to anybody else if they might want to contribute to exactly that.
Good morning, everyone. So I found this book quite intriguing. I was quite intrigued by chapter really much about, it starts with the first saying that motivation is overrated. An environment often matters boom. And I think for many of us that everything in our life, we are going to start that diet on Monday. Because of the feeling. Come Monday, then you kind of not feeling the bus and do different Tuesday, etc. But chapter 6, quite interesting. It starts off with an example of explaining that in a general hospital in Boston, there was a bunch of researchers that noticed that the patients in the hospital at the start, they would often be addicted to sodas, but they had access to the cafeteria, and a group of researchers was determined to change the health habits of the entire hospital. But they wanted to do an experiment to encourage people to move from soda to water, but they did not inform anyone. So nobody knew about the experiment. All they did was basically changes in the environment. So maybe the soda was easily accessible, they swapped it out with water, auction sector, and over a period of 6 months, the stats is quite high for how many people converted from change from solid water. It was just small little changes, moving the features that allowed patients now to think there wasn't that the stats even happened because all of a sudden they realized, oh, water's healthier or they were more thirsty. It was what was accessible in front of it that allowed them to. So it was a pretty game queue. I found it quite interesting. And I think for many of us as entrepreneurs, we should ask ourselves in what environments are we thriving and what environments are we not. And I love a quote in this chapter, and it says you don't have to be a victim of your environment, but you can be the architecture of it. And the idea of that is that we all have got the power to enhance our environment. And I think one of my favorite quotes, this chapter speaks to it, that if a flower dies, you blame the flower, you blame the environment. Saying the environment is not conducive, you won't thrive there as not. So I found that changes, minuscule changes can be made, and we shouldn't depend on motivation or willpower. We should actually implement those small actionable steps. Good morning, everyone. So it's my listening to but economy services. So I think people as something habits. As an entrepreneur, I think we wear many hats. Does it really indeed? And as a couple of years ago, one of the things that stood out was habits. And it's basically when you kind of a positive habit to really and a new habit to that. So I'll give you an example. So you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, you make a cup of coffee and you enjoy the coffee, and after that, so what I do is I basically do a gratitude journal. So that is just to reflect on things that I'm thankful for, but I've also added that not just in my personal life, but in my business life. So at the front of my journal, I write about my personal thinkings I'm grateful for my personal life. Then at the back of the book, I write 50 things that are wins from my business perspective. So one of the wins that I had yesterday. And I draw every day, right? So that's one habit. Then another habit is to eat the 2 minutes, which I've expanded to 10 minutes now on a daily basis. So in the beginning, I really wasn't a habit reader, but because of the habits, I'm basically in the Coming Habits full book and have read a few other books following that. So I think that is what you put habits that you have the gratitude journal as your initial habit, which is a positive habit. It helps you as a entrepreneur also reflect on how more you come. Because sometimes feels that the not so good days, the things aren't really going well in your business, in your person. And that can basically help you step up for your path and give you the possibility to pick yourself up and continue for the day. Also, the second part about for you count in the business to basically help just motivate yourself as a founder, but also keep you the motivation to motivate your team, because it's important how you seek for the tone for your day and also how you show up for your team. So if you're not involved for it, you basically involved the team. And how is that when we learn it as a song? Another, and let's talk to that solution. So that's the second habit that before. Another thing that I struggle with, I'm a one. So, we do a morning show, a morning show, a workshop. Then at the end of a work day, I do another morning show where basically it's listen to the kids, pick the toys, pick the bed, and then there's other things to do. By the end of the day, there's no time for yourself. So balance, if you put in that, sometimes that's harder than yes, struggle to find that balance. And I think that this book has really helped me find that balance. By in the morning, usually 5 at 6, I do my gratitude journal. I do my 10-minute study, and yet I also write down my goals for the day, 10 minutes to start. And it doesn't mean like a gym, you should to be able to start it. I started with a 5-minute fitness cardio video on YouTube. And 5-6 months, I basically lost him, as a result of this. It's about consistency, and it's about consistency. So that's, I'm talking about the balance aspect, because self-care is just as important as an entrepreneur. You cannot go from a haircut, and as an occupier that, find ourselves like really doing that and just don't have enough belief towards ourselves. We need to follow up so that we can show up and be productive on a daily basis. And that's really up.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Julian. So before we hand over to Morgan to give us 3 tips for productivity as entrepreneurs, we just came to ask you if you were after and might want to say one, 2, 3. Yeah, we have one more.
And it's I'm Malcolm Freeman. I run a mentorship program for 18 to 25-year-olds called CSALT. And the 2-minute rule is one that is a big one that we actually talk about a lot on a regular basis with the students. Because yes, you can create a new habit at 2 minutes, but if you look, and we often compare this to how we always say we don't have enough time. Yeah, we always have that 2 minutes for that TikTok video that they've caught us on for 2 minutes. And when I start asking them to reflect on the amount of time that they spend on those, we try and shift that from take those 2 minutes to do something such as the gratitude journal, such as those kind of, just reflecting on something that they were grateful for today. I had to think about that, have a bit of time out doing that kind of thing. And you'll see the amount of time that they actually find that we've used so much time into social media at things that are those negative habits. So it's an awareness of that 2 minutes can be so positive, that 2 minutes can also, if you start doing those wrong things, and the social media can catch you very easily with those 2 minute snippets. And if you look at as soon as you watch one video, what do? They immediately put another couple of the same kind of thing, and they hit you for about 2 minutes, and then you're hooked. And then suddenly you're looking for those videos, you're looking for those kind of things. So it's such a positive thing, but it's also something to be very aware of when it comes to the negative as well. I think that's something powerful.
Thanks a lot. So we're coming to the end of our show, and thank you for coming. And this is the Business Fundamental Show on Club Radio here at Tiger Valley City. Name is for our partnership with NTN and Founders Hub. So Morgan, you have 3 tips that you'd like to share.
Yes, definitely. By the end, there's only 3 things that, if you walk away with these things, I think you'll end off a bit better. Prioritize proper systems that will help you with execution, Basically program your cues, because if you program the cues, everything else will kind of follow. If you want to incentivize a certain behavior, look to see what you can kind of change on your daily life, or even in like your business environment, what you can change to make these slight improvements or these habits more successful and more reliably and consistent to do, Yes.
Morgan, thank you so much. If anybody wants to buy the book, they can get it at Exclusive Books, particularly the one in Tiger Valley, where it's offered Morgan. If you need any of the latest deals in terms of cell phones and hosting services coming up with NPN store here in Tiger Valley Center. Be back next week. Same time, same place. Until then, goodbye. God bless.